Hey everybody, coming to you live from my new house in Kansas, just closed this morning. That doesn't deter me from wanting to talk about GeoGebra with my buddy Tim here. Tim, what are we doing today?
Hi, Alice. Thanks for doing this. We are going to explore GeoGebra Classroom Part 2, actually. We explored a lot of it yesterday, and so if you're just hopping in for the first time to these webinars today, welcome, and I'm excited to show you what GeoGebra can do. So I would recommend, I'm going to share my screen here, I would totally recommend you taking the screen that you're watching us on here and like literally perhaps moving it to, like squishing it to the side a little bit like this, and getting another window open and literally exploring right over here. So let's go to GeoGebra's homepage, please. It's www.geogebra.org. We'll go there. And if you have not created a GeoGebra account yet, if this is the very first time that you're looking at GeoGebra here, and you're a teacher, and oh my gosh, I have to do some degree of remote learning, whether it's 50% or full 100%, stressing out, okay? GeoGebra has a lot of great resources and a powerful interface to really help you out, to help take the stress off. And we're gonna talk about this today for a half hour.
Like,
okay. Yep.
It's like
so
Chris watching on YouTube. I emailed him the link though. Just saying.
Okay. All right. So right here where you see the S in my name, basically right here, you'll see a sign in icon. All you got to do is hit sign in, hit create account, and do it through Google or Microsoft, whatever your platform is, so you don't need a password. It's very simple. I created a fake profile here, my profile. If I go to profile here,
So
by the way, yeah.
That is my way that I do is I go to geogebra.org and
Yep.
I'm already signed in, hopefully, but if not, I've logged in with my Google account and it's go to profile. That's my first thing I click on.
Yeah. We'll actually go to home, but the thing is, I just wanted to show people the profile. That's your personal page. My nickname is Seeker of Activities. That's what we're going to do today. I'm looking for good stuff that I could use for remote learning in my classes. Okay, there's lots of stuff out there, but this is my profile page. Once I do stuff, I'll see stuff appearing over here. Like, think of this as your space in the cloud, or think of this as your Google Drive, if you will, your personal section here. Okay, but where I want to direct us all is to go to the home right here. All right, right up there. And I want you to go down, look at the main swim lane right there, Alice. The first icon right there. It says remote learning templates for, well, let's click on it. Remote learning templates for GeoGebra Classroom. Okay, now you can scroll down here. There is a lot of stuff here. Time is not going to permit us to look at everything here, but we're going to look at some things. We have some apps. We have some virtual whiteboards we can use readily. These were created by my friend and colleague Steve Phelps. And some manipulatives like algebra tiles. How about some analog clocks or those base 10 blocks, right? Change, elementary school, Cuisinart rods, fraction circles. Again, you see it. A lot of the typical hands-on manipulatives and instruments that we use within a math class can be found here. And this is not a complete set, Alice. More is going to be added to this over time. Okay, but I want to show you here quickly. Oh my gosh, I have a Google Meet class, say in 10 minutes. And I need to teach my second and third or fourth graders how to, tell time using an analog clock, perhaps. So I'm going to go to the analog clock URL right there. Okay, and let me see. Let's just play with this here. I could just okay, move that. Play around with it. Again, you don't, as a teacher, you don't need to give kids instructions as to how to play with something. Kids naturally like to play, right? So there you go. Goes from 12 o'clock. I guess what do these little buttons do? I guess move it by the minute, right? This resource was originally created by Anthony Orr from Hong Kong. Obviously, his name is up there. To credit him. But basically, I just have some templates, Alice. That's all this is. There's nothing more to it. So I want to have a class discussion about telling time. Well, right up here, look at it. As long as I'm logged in, that button in the upper right-hand corner, it says create class. Watch this. I create a class, and I could call it, I'll title it, whoops. Create a class. I'll title it let's say grade 4 AM math. I don't know, whatever you're doing, something like that, right? And then here, Alice is my first class I just made in GeoGebra.
So Tim, this
Hey,
is
Chris.
the class that you're bringing people into today.
Why not? Yeah, I mean, I wanted to show people how to make the class, which is what we didn't do last time. But yes, if you're willing to join the class, just so we can take 2 or 3 minutes to show you how this works, that would be awesome. Now, there's 2 ways for you as a student. You know, everybody watching can role play the student here. I'll role play, say, the teacher. Okay, and let's suppose what we're having right now is a Google Meet or a Zoom session or whatever, right? So there's
like
2
we
ways.
are right now.
Yeah, exactly. There's 2 ways you can go into a GeoGebra class. You can have your students go to this URL and type in this code. That's one way.
Wait, what you're really going to?
It's you don't have to. I'll give you a much easier way. You could go to this URL right here.
GeoGebra.org/classroom.
Yep.
I'm putting that in the chat.
Go for it. And then you could also type in the code without the space in between the D and the V. It is not case sensitive, by the way.
I just go to GeoGebra.org. Can I find where to go to classroom?
Yes. Look on the I'll show you where it goes. If you go to GeoGebra.org right here, I promise I'll put that back up. If you go to GeoGebra.org, you see where it says classroom right here on the left. That's where your students can go to type in the code.
Okay.
Okay. So you go there and then you type in the code right there. But there's actually a much faster way, Alice and Chris, to do this, because honestly, students mistype. You don't want it to take 3 minutes for your kids to come in the class, right? The easiest way is to just go up here where you see that share icon right there. You click on that button and just copy the link, and that'll give you direct access into the class. So you don't have to type in those letters. You see how those letters are like at the last tail end of the URL there? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I copy that link, I will give it to, I'll actually give it to you in the stream. Whoops, sorry. I'll give it to you in the StreamYard here. Let me put it in the private chat. Let's see. Where'd it go? Sorry. Actually, yeah, we'll just go into it. Actually, hang on a second. Let me stop sharing for a second, and I will drop it in the private chat so you can get there.
So
And
how would you distribute? I mean, you've got the link here. How would you recommend distributing this through a remote learning situation, especially when the students, I haven't even seen them yet? How would you communicate this?
I would do it the second way here. If you look, Alice, if you look at the private chat that I just put in there, take that URL that I just put in there, and if you could post it out to the social media platforms, please. That is a much faster way of getting kids in right away, getting your students into the class right away, without having to have to type in the 8-digit code to get in.
Okay, so I joined the class. It was pretty easy, and then I'm seeing a clock. It took me right to a clock.
Exactly, and it says task 1, task 2, whatever. So I will share my screen again. I'll show you exactly. Whoops, let me share my screen. Okay, there we go. Entire share. Let's get out of there. All right, so let me go back to the other URL there. And so see, we have 10 students in already. Okay, so now again, there's no directions here, right? But now, Alice, suppose this is being held over a Google Meet or a Zoom, whatever. And I say, all right, guys, go to task 1. We're talking about telling time here. So,
sharing. Oh, or am I supposed to click something to make it screen share? Oh, I see. Okay, now you're screen sharing. Start over.
Yeah, I'm screen sharing. See, but the thing is, would everybody just go start messing? Go to task 1, the first analog clock there, and just start playing with it. That's all I'm asking you to do is to play. And this is what I, as a teacher, see over my Google Meet or my Zoom session or whatever. Right? I can see all student work, live updates every 1 to 2 seconds in real time. See, Shannon and Teresa just came in. Caroline has it at 12:25. Right? Now, Alice, I can ask you and Chris and everybody. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. One question here. You know, as I'm playing in task 1,
Yeah.
I see down in the bottom right corner this weird circle with like a frame kind of thing in it.
Ah, yes. You mean I'm gonna look at Caroline's clock for a second. Doesn't matter. This little thing right here.
Yeah, that little thing.
Click on it. Click on it.
It does. What's it?
Well, let's click on it and find out.
Ah, I get it. So now that whole thing. Oh, that's just like everywhere else. The frame means
Full screen.
Full screen. Full
Yep.
screen. Got
It's
it.
a nice
And
way
then
to
I
get
can go
students to
back.
focus.
Okay. That's
Exactly.
nice.
Yeah, I love that feature because especially for students with visual vision impairments, whatever. Again, it's a great modification, for that kind of thing. But like here,
For people who are old like me.
no, you're not old. Age is
Cool.
only a state of mind.
And eyes.
What's that?
State of mind and the eyes.
Ah, okay. So, but now, Alice, Chris, suppose I want to talk to let's suppose we're reviewing how to tell time on an analog clock, for example, and I just want to do a bell ring, or whatever you call them in normal school, right? Hey, everybody, go to the first task there. Would you please show me what 4:45 looks like? Go ahead. Everybody right now, task 1, I want to see 4:45 really quickly.
Tim, can you answer Ellen? She says, do students need an account?
At the moment, no. Actually, at any point, no, they do not need an account for this. However, in the future, Ellen, if you want your students' work to save and have them go back to the class, they will need an account for that.
So when you say class, you really just mean this activity.
Yes, well, right now, we looked at this clock, the 3 clocks we first saw, that was the activity, and I created a class by hitting the Create Class button. So you are doing an activity in a class setting, if that makes sense.
So Julie wants to know if we can create the class ahead of time or only on the spot.
You can create it as early as you want. In fact, in Friday's webinar, Chris and I had the class made before we started the webinar, and I just gave you the URL for it.
Mm-hmm.
You can create as many classes as you want ahead of time, right? So right here, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have one other question about that.
Sure.
Then. Pardon me. So if I create as many classes as I want ahead of time, do I have to remember do I have to remember them by those silly codes?
No. When you go to create class, you give it a name, and so I would recommend naming it something that you're going to remember. For example, right? Let me go out of here for a second. I'm going to go back and view the original. Okay, this was the original. So Chris, let's say I have a morning and an afternoon class. I want to engage kids in playing with the clocks, right?
Oh yeah.
So I go to create class. I'm going to say AM class 8-3 warm up or something like that, and then I create the class, and there it is.
Oh, and that's when that thing. I see. So
it's a brand new class, and I'm gonna show you afterwards where your classes go. They actually go to your profile page, but we'll do that in like 1 or 2 minutes. I promise, because teachers can be like, where did it go?
Yeah.
But I want you all to experience the power here, because I, as a teacher, can ask all you students in my virtual class, remote learning class, show me what 4:45 looks like. And I can already tell now I love this show names, hide names button. So I can create, make everybody anonymous as a teacher if I choose to share my screen. You know what I mean? Most of the times they see my face. But right here, I can already tell just from a teacher side that Caroline, Jay, GWL, they have it. But Alice, hey, Alice is not paying attention, or she's struggling with learning how to tell time. I said 4:45, she has 1:45. You know what I mean? So, that way I might now, at this point, maybe I want to have a subset of students either go to another class in the meantime while I take maybe 3 or 4 students and have a breakout room, perhaps, and do some remediation maybe with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, the possibilities are endless here. But again, all we did was take a blank template, a ready to use template that was literally, we called analog clock, and I created a class from it. Again, there's no directions here, but this is more for a live lesson discussion kind of a feel.
The create class is up in the upper right. So it's all you have to do is just find the activity, create class. That's going to generate a link for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where I'm getting hung up with is you keep calling it a class.
Yes.
It's like a class session.
This is a class session. So in GeoGebra, right, there are what we call activities and classes and books, and everything has a different meaning. And if you're here for the first time, it can be very confusing. I totally get that. So let's clear up that confusion right now. Okay. Now, let me go back to GeoGebra. So, for example, okay, let me just go to, I'm going to go to where it says resources right here on the left. everything, this here is an activity. Exploring intersections of planes, for example, geometry. If I click on it, right, I see, wow, there's a 3D app in there, there's directions, and there's some questions for students. This, Alice, this whole page is called an activity because Joseph said it was an activity. So I could create a class from it just the way it is, right? If I like it just the way it is, for example. Okay. Now I'm going to do it for the heck of it. If I create that class, I can give it the same title, big deal, right? I hit create, and there's my class. But wait a minute, Tim, where the heck do all my classes go? I'm making class after class. Well, I'll show you right here. Your classes go to your profile page. If you go to your profile, you see how I made a class that we were all in, grade 4 AM math, right? And Chris asked me to make another class right here.
This is what's hanging me up. Julie says, is a class one activity only? Could it be a series of tasks?
It's whatever you want to make it. And again, I don't want to inundate people with too much information a day, but all we're doing, yes, a class in this example for today, a class is an activity, right? We could also make a class. We could also make a book into a class. That's for another day. Okay.
Do you know the logic behind why they call it a class?
Yeah. Yes. The reason why they call it a class is because it's meant to be used in a class session. Like as a teacher, whether I'm in normal school or remote learning, right? I have all my students in the class, and what do we as teachers do? We assign them tasks to hopefully foster discovery learning. So when you go into a class, when I as a teacher go into a class, I see my teacher overview page, right? However, when a student, Alice, accesses the same link, what they're going to see is something different. They're going to see what they have to do. And in a class, you're going to see the word task above here. Okay. See, when I look at just an activity, see how it says create class right there? This is not a class right now because I see a create class button here. This is an activity. But once I create a class, if you go into your work for the task right here, everybody here has task 1 next to that clock that we're in, because that's in a class. But right here, see, if you're new to GeoGebra, you don't have any activities that you have because you're just we're taking stuff other people made and making our own classes out of it. Think of a GeoGebra class as a Google Classroom class, if that analogy can help some of us understand here. What do? You have students join your Google Classroom, don't you? And you assign tasks in that Google Classroom class.
So Tim, are they private? Greasy wants to know.
The class is private to the teacher, right? Like nobody else can see the students' work right now except for me. Like everybody here in this GeoGebra class here, I only see the work of all students. Nobody else in the public can access my personal class. That will never change. I promise you that. Yeah. And but in a month or two, GeoGebra will now allow student work to save, because right now student work doesn't save. If you quit your browser and go back in and you go to the same link I gave you for a class, it'll actually force you to sign in as a new student. But once you log in with your GeoGebra profile in about a month, your work will save to your account, and you can go back and edit it at any time.
All right. She wants to be able to title her classes to match the name in Google Classroom.
You can do that. That's something that we're going to do tomorrow. Tomorrow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to take this activity, and you can make a copy of it just like you do a Google Doc or Google Sheet. You can't edit it. You go to File, make a copy. The way you do that is by going to the 3 dots, and you go right there. But that is the subject of discussion for tomorrow because you won't have time today to do that. And I'll show you how to edit it pretty quickly and pretty nice.
I'm not sure that's what she was asking. She wants to title the classes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misheard you. I thought you sent the activity. So the way you title a class, let me go back to this. Let me go back to the main page. I'll find a template to use. For example, let's say, I don't know. Let's say algebra tiles. When you name your class, you do it right here. You go to create class. This is where you name your class right here.
Okay. Got it.
I apologize. I misunderstood.
So is there a shared classroom for this? I know that the other activities I can share to classroom.
Should create a GeoGebra classroom? Yeah, you mean GeoGebra classroom.
Can I share that to Google Classroom?
Okay, you want to share a GeoGebra activity to Google Classroom. You do not want to share a GeoGebra class to Google Classroom.
Yes, I definitely do.
Say it again.
I definitely do. I want to put everything in Google Classroom.
You can. Now what I would do is I gotcha. So what I would do, Alice, is let's say I create a class from this algebra tiles template, exclamation mark. What I would do for my students is go here, copy that link, you paste that URL in Google Classroom, your students go to Google and they say, oh, that's where I got to go. And that'll take you to the GeoGebra class.
All right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, again, all we're doing is finding activities that exist. Now, these are just blank manipulatives, blank templates, like protractors, let's say you might want a rectangular prism, when you start talking about surface area, you as a teacher may think of, okay, this is just a manipulative that I can modify as is virtually in a virtual remote setting. Now, you as a teacher would think, what critical thinking questions would I want to ask my students and have them use this manipulative to help them learn what they need to learn, if you will. Again, that's customizing an activity, which we will do. I'll show you how to do that in tomorrow's half-hour session. Okay. But again, there's a lot to be discovered here in GeoGebra. In fact, I mentioned this in one of the earlier broadcasts. I think that a lot of resources for elementary, 300 plus, middle school, and high school right here. Okay, that you could just browse through, and any one of those activities you can create a class from. Now, interestingly enough, people sometimes are like, Tim, I don't see a create class button up here. Look at this, isn't this bizarre? It says activity, so why the heck does it not make a create class button from that? Some people have just noticed that, and the reason why is because there's no questions on here, and there's no apps to play with. The only items that are on here are videos and URLs and texts. So a GeoGebra activity has to have at least one app kids can build and play in, like the clocks we did, right? And it has to have at least one question, either multiple choice or open-ended. But basically, if all you see is a bunch of text and a bunch of videos, well, it doesn't make sense to create a class from that, because it's not, this activity page is not prompting the students to do anything, if that makes sense.
Nice that you're able to build a resource page, though. Hey,
yeah.
So wants to know, eventually, students will be able to do the activity later, then the teachers will be able to see their work.
Yep. Yeah, well, the teacher could see their work live or later. It doesn't matter. I mean, like right here in our...
It was a live activity thing, so if they didn't save their browser, it closed it. Didn't you say that?
Yes, right now, at the moment, student work will save, but in about a month or a month and a half at most, when they update GeoGebra Classroom, if students will be able to log in the GeoGebra class via their GeoGebra account, and that way their work will save to their profile. But right now, as a student, whether you're logged in or whether you're not, it doesn't matter. Your work once you quit the browser, it's gonna exit out, and the student work won't save. But the teacher will have a copy. Again, this is always going to get better. GeoGebra put this out last month because teachers needed something. Think of this as a beta version. It's going to get better in the months to come. Yeah. So one more thing. I know we have 5 minutes here. See how I have 4 classes? See how my profile page is getting pretty messy right now, even though there's only 4. You can create to help you as teachers. If you want to organize, you can create folders right here. I would recommend creating folders to put your classes in. It's just like creating a folder in Google. You know how to do it, right? You go to create new folder. I'm going to call it, say, algebra, algebra 1, maybe period 3, something like that, right? And I can actually drag this class into that folder right there. Should work. Sometimes it gives me trouble, but if it does, I click on the dots and I hit move to, just like in Google, and choose the folder. It'll move it in there. Okay. And I can create another folder. Let's say geometry, period 2, create, and I'm gonna try to drag. I'm just gonna go here and move this one to period 2 geometry. Okay, and so folders are a nice personal organization tool that's beneficial for the user logged in only, if you will. So that all my geometry stuff's in here. And yes, you can have folders and folders and folders and folders and folders. See what I'm saying? But I find that making folders is a powerful way of helping teachers organize the classes that they make from activities that exist or templates that exist on the GeoGebra platform there. So, and I should be able to drag this in here if I want.
Oh,
Yeah.
I need to know if notes works the same way for organizing.
GeoGebra, is the person referring to GeoGebra notes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you could take a GeoGebra notes file out here and drag it in a folder, or click here, move to, and just go to the folder. Totally. Sometimes I have to clear my cache just in order to get that feature, that nice smoothness to work again. It's just a workflow issue, but yeah, notes can be put in there as well, for sure. Books can be, activities, anything can be put in a folder.
So Ellen says these sessions could easily be an hour. For sure they could.
They could, but we want to limit it only to a half hour. And trust me, Ellen, it's very hard for me not to keep going, but we find that just baby steps, just one little step, I think it can go a long way. And I think we would remember more in doing it that way too, but for sure. And again, I would recommend this as a starting point. And at GeoGebra, this resource will get even better over time. Even if some teachers just want a virtual whiteboard, like Steve Phelps made. These people on Twitter were like, I need something. So he rose to the occasion and he made this. Look at this. I mean, all I have, you know what I mean? Maybe I could sketch something, or, I can, go ahead and change the color. It's pretty cool. Hey, can you sketch the graph of you know what I mean? A lot is possible here. So I could create a class just from this and just have 4 blank whiteboard spaces for my students to doodle. If I need them to do something during the period or during my remote learning session, I could do that.
So Tim, Hubby wants to know, is making a folder also free?
Of course, everything is free here. Yes.
No extra charge.
No extra charge. I'm sorry. You pay enough for Wi-Fi in the device as it is. I mean, let this be free.
No kidding. So
can I say something?
Please.
Real quick. It would be all of these sessions are being recorded and are available on your YouTube page and Alice's YouTube page as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? And
yes.
So if you're wondering some of these questions, and in these days where we're just blasting through in a half an hour, there's a wealth of information. Much of what we have reviewed today was review from last week as well. So
yes, and Chris, to add to that, I also am putting I'm also putting these webinars right here. If you want to, I'll throw this URL in right here. This also has the entire collection of URLs there. So Alice, if you're willing to put that in there, please. If you want a list of all the webinars chronologically, that URL contains it. It's actually an activity page on my profile page, but again, you won't see a create class button up there because all it is videos, right? There's nothing for students to do there. So the create class button is not there. So, what do you mean by cumbersome? I'm curious. Can you elaborate?
Well, they can't.
I know, but there's the type in if possible. Taylor, I hear you, and I see that, and sometimes it might be, say, like, when you click something and wait, where do I go? But the learning curve might be longer than others, but I promise you, it is very easy to do. Again, find any template in there, hit create class, go to your profile page. I promise you, it will be there, and you can have students join by giving them the link. You teach Alice, so will everything be covered? We're gonna, in our half-hour sessions, Caroline, we're gonna do our best to do as much as we can. In fact, GeoGebra has a lot of cool things coming out in the next month that we'll do half-hour webinars on, some stuff that's very new. So definitely you can stay tuned for that. And if you can't join live, you'll always catch it on that page or on the YouTube channels. Yeah, we can get to that in another session. Again, only got to keep today's topic there for sure. But if you Google anything about GeoGebra, you can actually find what you want pretty quickly. I've discovered that myself because that's how I learned. So, yeah. I think that's time. So have fun playing with Classroom, people. And tomorrow we will learn. Yes, tomorrow we will learn how to take an activity, copy it, and I'll show you how to edit it to your heart's content to make it your personal activity, for sure. We'll do that.
Awesome. I look forward to tomorrow.
Likewise. Thank you again.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.